Hey guys, it's Jill and welcome to my booktube channel. This video is going to be a weekly reading vlog. I think I'm going to read one thriller, one romance, and one fantasy book this week. Just as a warning, before I get too far into this video, there will be spoilers for all of the books mentioned. And the first book that I want to talk about is the thriller book that I'm reading, and it is The Good Lie by A.R. Torre, and I'm reading this on my Kindle. This is about the FMC. She is a psychiatrist. Her name is Gwen, and she mostly deals with clients who are killers. And there's currently a serial killer on the loose who is targeting young teenage boys. It turns out though that there's one young boy, his name is Scott. He ends up escaping the killer, and once he escapes, he actually identifies the killer and puts him behind bars while they await further trial. The father of one of the victims of this serial killer, he is actually a defense lawyer. And oddly enough, he volunteers to work for free to defend this serial killer because he actually believes that this guy is innocent and that they have the wrong person behind bars. So it seems kind of like a conflict of interest considering the fact that his son was actually killed by this killer. But I guess if he doesn't think this guy is actually the real killer, he's actually helping to eventually find the real killer who may be free at the moment. So he actually asked for the help of Gwen, and he wants her to kind of psychoanalyze this supposed killer to help him build a case with his claim that he's actually innocent. This is also a little bit of a conflict of interest considering him and Gwen. The guy's name, his name is Robert. So Robert and Gwen, they kind of had a fling in the past, which brings another layer into this, and it's a little bit awkward, definitely at the start. Currently, Gwen is still going through all of the evidence of the different murders and whatnot, but I actually think that Robert is the true killer, or he knows the killer and feels bad about the fact that this innocent guy is behind bars, which this isn't like really an original thought because one of Gwen's coworkers actually has this thought as well, so I kind of just like agree with that thought, I guess. He's definitely sketchy though, and I feel like he definitely has ulterior motives. At the same time, we also get a little perspective of the mom of the guy that escaped. His name is Scott, and currently she is very worried about him because he is not acting the same way that he was before he was taken, which obviously makes sense because he was traumatized by being taken by a killer. But she just really notices that her son is not the same person that he used to be, and she's really hoping for her son to move past this and continue with his life. But he's kind of caught up in the social media and the kind of reporting aspect of this. He's going and doing a lot of different TV interviews and talking a lot about this whole situation, while at the same time he's kind of distancing himself from his old friends and not really talking to his parents too much either. So yeah, his mom is really worried about him. And another idea that Gwen's coworker had was that this Scott guy is actually lying and he's making up this whole story to kind of like put this guy behind bars. Meanwhile, it's not actually the killer, and he's doing all of these interviews kind of as a distraction from the actual guy. So I feel like that's pretty plausible as well. I'm not 100% sure though. The only person that I know I cannot trust is Robert so far, but I'm excited to see the different twists that end up happening and how this ends up playing out. I'm almost kind of done this. It's only like 250 pages, so I feel like I'll be able to finish this within the next few hours, and then I'll give my final thoughts. I also started listening to Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood. I'm only on chapter 2 though, and I'm going to actually finish this thriller and finish talking about the thriller before I talk about this romance, because I feel like it's just easier flow-wise for you guys to follow along with me talking about one book and then going on to the next one and not flipping back and forth between the two. So I'm also only like on chapter 2, so I feel like I'll finish this thriller and then talk about it, and then I'll get into Two Can Play a little bit more. But that is the update for now, and I will talk very soon. I finished The Good Lie, and I was very wrong. Robert was not the killer at all, and it turned out that the killer was one of Gwen's clients who she knew for a long time. So that was the kind of twist at the end, which I don't think I mentioned before, but at the same time of everything happening, there was a murder of a husband and a wife. So the husband was actually Gwen's client, and he had some thoughts about killing his wife for quite a while, and she was there to support him to make sure that he didn't follow through with his not very good thoughts of hurting his wife. And when it became news that this husband and wife ended up dead, Gwen felt very guilty because she had that insight with his kind of dark thoughts and his twisted feelings and intentions towards the wife, but she had no idea that he and his wife was also behind the killings of the young teenage boys as well. She literally had no clue at all that that was going on. The next part is when it gets a little bit more confusing. So Scott, the teenager that ended up running away from the killer, he actually was in love with John's wife, who was the wife that ended up dead, and John also ended up dead. So this wife, her name is Brooke, she actually let Scott go because apparently they were in love, so she wanted to make sure that he got free. But John figured this out, and that's why he killed the wife. Then at the same time, the lawyer guy, Robert, he kills John right after John kills the wife, Brooke, because he was upset that this teenager, Scott, got let free. Meanwhile, his son, who was one of the victims of this couple, he didn't get out and he died. So Robert, I guess, was kind of stalking them and knew that they were the killers. And the way he found out these two were the killers was a little unbelievable to me. It was through his prescriptions. His son had diabetes, so he had to get prescriptions, and lo and behold, John was the pharmacist at the pharmacy where he got the prescriptions, so he actually kind of like toyed with his prescriptions a little bit, and that is how Robert figured that out. Which I thought it was kind of weird that Robert actually knew this whole time, or for a very long time at least, that this couple was the original killers of the boys, but never said anything. Like, he's a lawyer, you would think that he would have the courage and ability to speak up and tell the police what he knows about the couple and their wrongdoings, I guess. So the guy who was originally in jail for the crime that Scott said was the killer, he gets out of jail, but then Scott is mad that he gets out of jail because I guess this guy, he in the past hurt Brooke, the wife. So then at the very end, Scott tries to kill him, but his mom stops him, which was kind of crazy. I feel like in the future, if we had like an extended epilogue, he would probably be able to follow through with his desire to get rid of that guy. And then the weirdest thing that I thought ended up happening was that Gwen and Robert were basically a couple at the end of the book, and Robert actually quits his job as an attorney and goes to the beach to live like a chill life, and then randomly he contacts Gwen and they meet and go to dinner, and at the very end she's like, yeah, like I think I'm going to like stay with him or something like that. So yeah, they're like together now, which does make sense because she knows that Robert killed John in his house, so why would she want to be with a killer? So the big twist, which I feel like was Gwen discovering that John, her client, was the killer this whole time. I personally wasn't really fazed when I read that part. I was kind of just like, okay, like I didn't really care. Otherwise though, this was a really fast paced and I would say decent thriller, and I would give this 3 stars. But I'm going to move on to my next book. It is a romance, a contemporary romance, which again, I'm only on chapter 2 of this. I haven't listened to any of it today because I was busy reading and finishing the thriller book. But what I've gathered so far from this is that it's going to be a romance between 2 video game designers. They work at different places, I believe, and they met each other a long time ago, but they didn't have a great first impression, which is pretty common with Ali Hazelwood's kind of meet cutes, I guess. But now they're at a conference together, and I'm just on the part where they're at the conference and nothing too much has really happened other than kind of an awkward interaction between the FMC and the MMC. The FMC's name is Viola and the MMC, his name is Jesse. So they are kind of like enemies, even though they don't really work at the same place, so I don't get how they're technically enemies. But I guess because they have similar jobs, they have like conflicting, I don't know, they're enemies, I guess. And I'm just reading the blurb here. It seems like they have to work together to build a game together that's based off of a book series, I think. So I feel like this will be a cute little romance. But there are only 17 chapters, so this should be a pretty quick read to listen to. It's only about 4 hours, so I feel like I can finish this one tomorrow as well, and then we can move on to the fantasy book after that. I'm now 63% of the way through Two Can Play, and I only have 1 hour and 37 minutes left, so I'm definitely going to be finishing that up soon. I'm on chapter 11, and it turns out that Viola and Jesse have actually known each other for about 5 years. About 1 year ago though, she was really embarrassed because him and her were under a mistletoe together at an engagement party from her, I think it was her family's like engagement party, and I guess that was a pretty awkward encounter because he kind of refused, and then he said to her cousin later that he doesn't want anything to do with her. So she's kind of like okay, why do you hate me for like no reason? I also said a few wrong things yesterday, so it was not a convention that they were at. It turns out that the two bosses that they both work at, since both companies have the opportunity to work on this game together, so they decided to bring all of them on a retreat together for a ski trip. Some people on both of the teams think it's kind of an opportunity to size each other up and that they're in a competition to see who's going to be able to produce this game, when in reality they both kind of need to work together anyways. Like, neither studio can really do it on their own, so it definitely will be a team effort to produce this game all together. We have the classic misunderstanding first impression trope that I feel like Ali Hazelwood always does, and this time it turns out that Jesse actually asked Viola out for coffee a long time ago, but she kind of denied him, and she was also kind of oblivious to the fact that he was actually asking her on a date in general. And then after that, there were also a few other instances that Jesse had the impression that Viola did not want to really interact with him too much, and that they were just going to be kind of like friendly to each other since they had like mutual friends and like mutual co-workers, or not co-workers, but since they're both in the same industry, they would be seeing each other at different conventions and stuff. But it kind of sucks for both of them because at first they were both kind of into each other and interested to get to know each other. She confessed that she had a little crush on him, and he also kind of had a crush on her. So all of these years they've kind of been like beefing for like no reason really. Now after some awkward interactions though, they've kind of cleared the air and they're being more friendly towards each other, but it's kind of weird because she knows that he likes her. So I feel like they'll definitely be together like very soon. But that is my update for now, and I'll do another final update of this audiobook once I'm done in about an hour and a half. I finished Two Can Play, and I'm going to give this one 3 stars. It was a very quick and easy book to listen to, and I thought it was really interesting how the characters' relationship reflected the one that was part of the book and soon-to-be video game that they're creating. I will say though, I'm not the biggest fan of listening to Spice on audiobook format because I just feel like it's a little awkward to listen to for me personally. But overall, I liked the main female character, the main male character. I thought the side characters were fine as well, but I did feel like this was kind of like another one of the same stories by Ali Hazelwood. Don't get me wrong, I love Ali Hazelwood, but I feel like I want something a little bit different in terms of the tropes, and maybe because this one was a little bit shorter, we couldn't get as deep into the character development. But I feel like some of the descriptions even are a little bit similar to all of the other books that I've read by Ali. For example, the FMC running into the MMC and describing it as like a brick wall. But it was still an enjoyable read for me, and I did like the video game aspect of this because I didn't really know anything about game development or anything with that industry, so it was kind of, I don't know if it's accurate, but I did like hearing about that. And I'm going to move on to a fantasy book now, and I have it here. It is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. If you saw my last video, I recently got this at the start of the year. I have not read any books by Brandon Sanderson before. I know the Warbreaker series is very popular and very well loved by fans, but I thought I would dip my toes into something a little shorter than like a multi-book series. And normally I go for fantasy romance, and this seems like a fantasy with not really any romance to it. So I'm really interested to see if I'm going to enjoy that kind of plot. I'm going to get this started now, and I'll talk to you guys about my thoughts and feelings and predictions of it very soon. I'm on chapter 5, and I'm also watching Maëlys Shay's new ambiance video. This is actually the artist who created my intro art, which I am so proud of how far she came on Instagram. I'm pretty sure she's almost at 1 million followers, and I think I commissioned her at like less than 100k. So seeing her growth has just been so amazing. But she recently came out with a YouTube channel of different ambiance videos, and they are just so lovely and cozy, so give her a follow. She was so lovely to work with, and I'm really proud with how far she's come with her art. When I started this, I very quickly realized that in my haul I misread the blurb on the back, and I said that the FMC Tress, her father, left the island to go find a wife, but it turns out it wasn't her father, it was actually her best friend that left the island. And this friend she actually is like borderline in love with, and he went to do this because his father, who is the Duke, forced him to go and do this and search for a wife. And it's also kind of funny that I said I didn't think there was romance in this, because less than 50 pages in, on page literally 24, and it's already been a very heartbreaking love story. And I'm really sad that Tress wasn't able to tell Charlie her true feelings about him, and now he's gone. But his father, the Duke, and then the wife and the daughter-in-law is apparently back at the island now, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, kind of sad that Tress and Charlie weren't able to be together. Hopefully at the end they can reconnect with each other, or hopefully he's not like dead or something. Hey guys, I'm now at my parents' house, so that is why the backgrounds will probably look different from now on, but I'm on chapter 23, page 123 of Tress of the Emerald Sea, and this is quite interesting. We have our FMC Tress. She is now a pirate officially. She unintentionally got caught up with some pirates, and now she is part of their crew, and she is working on the ship as a sprouter, and that is where you use these sprouts, which are, I'm still a little bit confused exactly what these sprouts are. I know one purpose of them at least is to help fix parts of the ship if there's like a hole or something. So yeah, she's joined this crew, so she's kind of on a side quest before she's able to help her friend Charlie and go to the Sea Queen. Wait, I can't even remember. The sorceress, that's what they call her, not the queen. And where I just left off, she was thinking about how these pirates can help her get Charlie back, and I'm assuming help her destroy the sorceress. I'm not exactly convinced that the sorceress is actually bad, because I've heard some people say that she is, but we haven't met her yet or really heard too much about what she's done. So I feel like there is the possibility that she could be good, potentially. I don't know, we'll see. And so far during her journey, she's made a new friend that is actually a rat, and he can talk to her, which is pretty cute, and he's been able to go into small places where she is too big to fit, and has been able to eavesdrop on certain conversations between other characters and then relay the information back to Tress. So it's very handy to have the rat. But one of the pirates did say they wanted to get a cat because they noticed there was a rat problem. So hopefully he doesn't get eaten by a cat. But this is a great book so far. I'm really enjoying it, and it's really different than any other type of fantasy that I've read in the past. I like Brandon Sanderson's writing so far. It is in third-person point of view, which doesn't really bother me, but I know some people only prefer the first-person point of view. I really like our main female character. She's just really cute, and she just wanted to live her peaceful life on the island collecting her cups. But unfortunately, she's destined to do something bigger and help Charlie in the end. So I'm looking forward to continuing on her adventure with her, and hopefully with the help of these pirates, she's able to go to where the sorceress and hopefully where Charlie is as well. I feel like when he does go back to the island home, his dad is going to like freak out on him, because he always treated him pretty poorly and really just bullied him and was not a nice father at all. So I feel like that might not fare over well. But maybe they'll just go and discover a different island, and then them two can like live happily ever after together without going back to the other island. But then her parents are also at the other island, so I want her to go back to her family. I'll just have to continue reading, I guess, and find out, but I will update you guys soon. I would say I'm about 1/3 of the way through this, so I'll probably update you guys again when I'm about 2/3 of the way through and tell you more of my feelings and predictions of this book. Hey guys, it's been a little while since I've filmed for this video in particular. I took a little bit of a break to read Onyx Storm and then film that reading vlog, which I've already posted that reading vlog, so if you're interested, go and find it on my channel. But since I last talked to you guys, I've gotten a little bit more into Tress of the Emerald Sea, and now I'm on chapter 40. This is page 221, and I believe I have about 150 pages left of this one, and I'm a little concerned with how everything's going to be able to be wrapped up, because it seems like there's lots that needs to happen within a short amount of pages left. It is a little interesting though, because we do have some chapters where there's a POV and it's from someone in first person point of view, but we don't exactly know who that is. I thought originally that it was going to be Huck the rat, but after a few chapters later, I don't think it actually is him. It turns out there's this dragon that lives at the bottom of the Crimson Sea, and this is actually who the captain, their name is Captain Crow, wants to go and see, because Captain Crow has an issue where they have sprouts in their blood. So she wants to make a deal with that dragon to get rid of these sprouts in her blood. Sorry, I meant to say spores in her blood, not sprouts. The crew's a little bit upset with the captain though, because the captain has been doing some things that are not very in the norm, such as using cannons to kill people, which apparently they don't normally do. So I thought Tress was quite cunning when she was talking to the captain about going to this Crimson Sea and then eventually going to the Midnight Sea. But it turns out the captain kind of bamboozled her, because Tress realized that the captain wants to use Tress as kind of the trade offer with the dragon in the Crimson Sea so that she can get the cure for the blood disease with the spore infection. So Tress doesn't really want to go to the Crimson Sea now, but they are well on their way, so we'll see how that ends up going. There's also someone named Hoyd that has a curse set on them. And going back to what I was saying previously, there's only 150 pages left, so I don't really know how they're going to be able to go to the Crimson Sea, make the deal with the dragon, deal with the dragon, Tress maybe or maybe not escaping the dragon, which she's the main character, so I feel like she would have to like get out and then eventually go to the Midnight Sea, because that's where the sorceress is, and that's why she went on this journey to even begin with. But I feel like there's not really much time to do all of that in 150 pages. So I am interested to see what the kind of perhaps twist will be and how everything will be resolved. I feel like I will be able to finish this today in the next few hours. I don't think that this is the most gripping book that I've read. I do think it's interesting enough, but after kind of leaving it for a few days to read Onyx Storm, it wasn't like I was craving to get back into the story or anything. I think it's cute, and I do think this protagonist, she's more so the kind of soft protagonist, but she is smart, so I'll give her that. But she likes to collect her teacups, and she was really happy on her island. She wants to save her best friend, so it's not like she's an assassin and like killing people left and right, which I did see a TikTok kind of recently of someone wanting more fantasy books where the main female character isn't like this assassin or the type of character that just has a very hard exterior, which I love those kind of books too. But after reading a few different fantasy romances, it does seem like those characters are all very similar to some extent. So it is a nice kind of change that we have in here with the main character, Tress. And yeah, that's all I really have to say for now. I'm just really interested to see how this ends. I feel like it could be like a 4-star though. I think I mentioned it at the start, but I haven't read any books from Brandon Sanderson in the past, so I don't really know his style and if he kind of does crazy things at the end. But I kind of hope that I am surprised, because I have a good feeling about the ending of this one. But yeah, I will update you guys once I'm done this and give you guys my final thoughts and wrap up this video. I finished Tress of the Emerald Sea last night, and I think I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. So I found out that that first person POV was actually this character named Hoyd, and apparently Brandon Sanderson has many books that are kind of interconnected, and Hoyd is one of the characters in this whole world. So Tress and a bunch of the crew, they were planning to go against the captain, which this kind of backfired actually, because the captain was spying on them and heard about these plans. So that resulted in a fight breaking out. But at this point they were in the Crimson Sea and they were very close to the dragon and everything. So Tress and this captain go to the dragon. The captain says to the dragon, "Look, I have this offer for you, Tress." And then Tress says the same thing to the dragon, being like, "Oh, here, I have the Captain Crow for you." So it's kind of funny because they went a little back and forth for a moment there about who should be taken by the dragon, and weirdly enough the dragon actually lets Tress go, and Captain Crow is the one that stays with the dragon to be its servant. Tress ends up being the captain of the ship now because Crow is gone, and they head off to the Midnight Sea to go and confront the sorceress. So when they finally get to this Midnight Sea where the sorceress is and where Charlie is, it all seemed a little bit too easy to overcome the challenges that they faced. There are these soldiers, I guess I would describe it as, who are protecting the sorceress, but they get past them pretty easily. And then also when they finally did meet the sorceress, I thought she was going to be very intimidating and scary, but it just seemed like she was like a normal woman, which I was a little bit disappointed in, I guess, because I was eager to see this like very disturbing and evil antagonist. It turns out this whole time that Charlie is actually Huck, which is the rat that Tress has been kind of friends with this whole time. So that was the little twist, I guess, that we got at the end, which I thought was a little bit annoying just because she went on this whole thing to find Charlie in the beginning, but it ended up being that she found Charlie within like the first 10 chapters or so. But regardless, they still had to face this sorceress. So what ended up happening was that Charlie, he was told by the sorceress that to break his curse, he would have to bring someone he loved to the sorceress to kind of trade places with him. So that is why this rat, Huck / Charlie, was kind of not wanting Tress to go to the sorceress this whole time, because he loves her and he doesn't want her to have to like trade places with him. But since they are now there with the sorceress anyways, they're trying to break these curses and free Charlie and make it so that everyone can be off on their merry way. And I thought this was a pretty good coming of age kind of adventure novel. There was some good found family with Tress and the crewmates, with Fort and everyone. There was also some disability representation because Fort is actually deaf. But overall, I did give this one only a 3.5 just because I felt like the ending was a little bit slower than I anticipated and perhaps a little rushed. Again, I felt like things were quite easy for Tress to deal with, and these dangers that were talked about previously, such as the dragon and the sorceress, didn't really end up being quite as dangerous as I anticipated. And going off that, it was the last, I would say, 100 pages when facing the dragon and the sorceress happened. So I feel like during that middle section, there really wasn't that much going on. I guess we were developing the found family and stuff like that, but I personally felt like the pacing of that could have been a little bit better in my opinion. But those are my final thoughts for Tress of the Emerald Sea, and that is going to be the last book of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching this week-ish in my life of reading. If you've read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts on them in a comment down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more book content, and I'll see you guys in a new video really soon. Bye.